Moving into a new house is supposed to feel like a fresh start. New walls, new routines, a clean slate. But sometimes, you don't realize how exposed you really are until you're already inside. And someone else knows it too. I had just moved into a small house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't anything special. One floor, beige walls, old carpet, but it was cheap, quiet, and close to my job. I lived alone, and after years of roommates, that silence felt like a luxury. The first few days were completely normal. On the night everything happened, I'd just gotten home from a late shift. I microwaved leftovers, sat on the couch, and watched YouTube on my phone with the lights off, like I always do. I remember checking the time and thinking I should probably go to bed since I had work in the morning. Before turning in, I did what I'd been doing every night since moving in, locking up the house. Front door, back door, windows. I clearly remember locking the back door because it stuck and needed an extra push. I went to bed around 11:30. At some point in the night, I woke up for no reason. That's not unusual for me, but what was unusual was how alert I felt. My eyes snapped open, and I immediately got this overwhelming feeling of dread. The room felt wrong, too quiet, but not peaceful. Then I heard it, a soft thud. It sounded like someone shifting their weight on carpet. I lay there, completely still, listening. My heart started racing as I realized the sound wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the house. I told myself it was just the house settling. Old houses make noise, that's normal. Still, my stomach dropped, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. A few seconds later, I heard a slow creak from the hallway floor. I froze. The creak came again, closer this time. Whoever it was wasn't walking normally. It sounded careful, like they were trying not to make noise but didn't know which boards creaked. My bedroom door was slightly open. I watched it, barely breathing, as a shadow passed across the gap between the door and the frame. That's when panic fully set in. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I didn't turn the screen on right away because I was terrified the light would give me away. Another step creaked. This time, it stopped right outside my door. I could hear breathing. It was faint, but it wasn't mine. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I was going to throw up. I got this overwhelming feeling of dread, like if I made even the smallest sound, something terrible would happen. The door handle slowly moved. I froze. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body just shut down. The handle stopped halfway through the turn, like whoever was holding it changed their mind. There was a long pause. Long enough that my arms started to cramp from gripping my phone so tightly. Then the handle slowly went back to its original position. I heard footsteps retreating, slow and careful again, moving toward the living room. A minute later, I heard the back door open. That's when I finally moved. I locked my bedroom door and called 911, whispering to the dispatcher. My voice sounded strange, like it didn't belong to me. She told me to stay where I was and keep the line open. The police arrived about 5 minutes later, but it felt like an hour. They searched the entire house, closets, under the bed, even the backyard. They found no one. Nothing was missing. No forced entry. No broken windows. One of the officers checked the back door and told me the lock was old and easy to bypass with the right pressure. He said whoever came in probably knew that. What really messed me up was what they found near the hallway closet. A muddy shoe print, partially wiped away, like someone realized they'd left it and tried to clean it with their foot. I didn't sleep in that house again. I stayed with a friend until my lease ended, even though it cost me money I didn't have. The landlord never found out who broke in, and there were no security cameras in the area. To this day, I still don't know who that was, how long they'd been watching the house, or if they ever came back after I left. But even now, years later, whenever I wake up suddenly in the middle of the night, my first thought is always the same. Is someone standing outside my door? I moved into my new house after a bad breakup. I wanted a place that felt separate from everything that reminded me of my old life. This house was a rental on the edge of town, surrounded by empty lots and half-built homes that had been abandoned by a developer years ago. It wasn't sketchy, just quiet. Too quiet sometimes. The first few weeks were normal. I worked late, came home, microwaved dinner, and fell asleep on the couch with the TV on. The only thing that bothered me was how dark it got outside. There were no streetlights near my house, so at night, it felt like the darkness pressed right up against the windows. One night, I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something in the bathroom mirror. My front door was open. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring at the reflection, trying to remember if I'd gone outside. I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. I slowly walked down the hallway, every step feeling louder than it should have been. When I reached the door, it was unlocked and wide open. The air coming in was cold. I closed it and locked it, then checked the rest of the house. Everything looked normal. No missing items, no broken windows. I told myself maybe I'd just forgotten to close it. But deep down, I didn't believe that. After that, I started noticing strange patterns. I'd come home and find the TV volume turned way down, almost muted. I'd wake up in the morning and the bathroom light would be on. Once, my phone charger was unplugged and neatly coiled on the nightstand. I got this overwhelming feeling of dread that someone else knew my routines better than I did. The scariest part was the breathing. It started late one night when I was half asleep on the couch. I thought the sound was coming from the TV at first, some background noise in a show. Then I muted it. The sound didn't stop. It was slow, controlled breathing, coming from somewhere close, too close. I froze. I held my breath and listened. The breathing stopped immediately, like whoever it was realized I was awake. A few seconds later, I heard the soft creak of a floorboard in the hallway. I grabbed my phone and locked myself in the bathroom. I sat there for almost an hour, staring at the door, waiting to hear something. Nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd imagined it, but it kept happening. Sometimes it was breathing. Sometimes it was a whisper of movement in the hallway when I turned off the lights. Once, I felt the couch dip slightly behind me, like someone had sat down. I jumped up and turned around. Nobody was there. I stopped sleeping normally. I'd stay up until sunrise, then crash for a few hours before work. My coworkers told me I looked exhausted. I didn't tell them why. Saying it out loud made it feel real. One night I came home earlier than usual. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the porch light was on. I never left it on during the day. I sat in my car for a minute staring at the house. That gut feeling hit me hard. Something was wrong. I quietly unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Body odor. Old sweat. I could hear movement upstairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps. My stomach dropped. I didn't even try to investigate. I backed out, locked the door from the outside, and called the police. When they arrived, they searched the house. In the guest bedroom closet, behind some old boxes, they found a sleeping bag, empty bottles, and a notebook. The notebook was filled with notes about me, my work schedule, what time I turned off the lights, what I watched on TV. The police told me the person must have been entering while I was at work and hiding when I was home. They never caught them. I broke the lease and left that house the same week. Even now, whenever I hear someone breathing behind me, my body locks up. To this day, I still don't know who that was. When I bought my first house, it was a small, older place at the end of a quiet street. Nothing special. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a basement that smelled like dust and old wood. The realtor kept calling it cozy. I just liked that it was affordable and far from my old apartment. The first week was completely normal. I spent my evenings unpacking, ordering takeout, and sitting on the floor watching Netflix because I hadn't bought a couch yet. That's why what happened still messes with my head, because it didn't start scary at all. One night, around 11 p.m., I was watching TV when I heard a soft thump come from upstairs. I paused the show and listened. Nothing else. Old house, I thought. Wood expands, pipes shift. I ignored it, but the next night I heard it again. This time it sounded heavier, like a footstep. My stomach dropped, but I still tried to rationalize it. The house had been empty for months before I bought it. There couldn't be anyone else there. Over the next few days, little things started feeling off. A door I was sure I had closed would be slightly open. The basement light was on when I knew I hadn't gone down there. I got this overwhelming feeling of dread every time I walked through the hallway at night, like I was being watched. I told myself I was just not used to the place yet. One evening, I came home from work and noticed muddy footprints near the back door. They weren't mine. I froze. It hadn't rained that day, and I never used that door. I stood there for a full minute, heart pounding, listening for any sound. The house was silent. I grabbed a kitchen knife and checked every room. Closets, bathroom, basement. Nothing. No one. I felt stupid for being scared, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been there recently. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something scraping against the floor. It was faint, slow, and coming from right outside my door. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then I heard it, someone softly turning the doorknob. I froze. The knob stopped. Whoever it was stood there for what felt like forever. Then I heard slow footsteps walking away down the hallway. I didn't sleep at all. When morning came, I called the police. They searched the house and found nothing, except the attic access panel in the hallway ceiling was open. Inside, there were food wrappers and a blanket shoved into the insulation. Someone had been living in my house. The police said it was probably a squatter who ran when they heard me wake up. They never found them. I moved out a week later. To this day, I still don't know who that was, or how long they were watching me before I noticed.